Dr. Lisa Carter looked out the window of the orbital research station. The moon was bright and full below her. She had been watching the mining operations for 3 years now. The big machines on the moon's surface dug up a special gas called helium-3. This gas powered all the energy plants on Earth. Lisa smiled as she watched the workers move around the mining sites. Everything looked peaceful. The small transport ships flew back and forth between the moon and Earth like busy bees. Each ship carried enough helium-3 to power a whole city for a month. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command center of Guardian 7. This was a big space station that protected the moon from any danger. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years. He was good at his job, but things had been quiet for a long time. The aliens called the Zephyrian Collective had been trading with humans for 30 years. They seemed friendly enough. Jake looked at his screens. Everything was normal. The defense satellites around the moon were all working fine. The radar showed no unknown ships anywhere near Earth or the moon. He took a sip of his coffee and relaxed in his chair. Down on the moon's surface, Ben Hughes was having a busy day. He was in charge of the mining crews at Luna Base Alpha. 50,000 people lived and worked on the moon now. They had built a whole city inside the moon's underground tunnels. The air was clean, the food was good, and the work paid well. Ben's daughter Amy worked with him on the moon. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. The Zephyrians had given humans some small creatures to study. Amy spent her days looking at these tiny aliens through her microscope. She was trying to understand how they lived and what they ate. "Dad, look at this," Amy said, showing Ben a picture on her computer screen. "These alien microbes can eat radiation for food. That's amazing." Ben smiled at his daughter. She had always been curious about everything. "That's great, honey. Maybe we can use that somehow." The Zephyrian Collective was made up of 7 different alien species. They all looked different, but they worked together. Their leader was Ambassador Vexthul. He was tall and thin with blue skin and forearms. He had been talking to human leaders for many years, but Vexthul had a secret. He was worried about humans. They learned new things too fast. They built better machines every year. They were spreading to other planets. The Zephyrians had been watching other species for thousands of years. Most aliens were peaceful and slow to change. Humans were different. In secret meetings, the Zephyrian leaders talked about the human problem. They called Earth a death world because it was so dangerous. The weather was wild. The animals were fierce. The humans had to fight just to survive every day. This made them strong and mean. "Humans are Deathworlders," Vexthul told the other leaders. "They come from a world that tries to kill them every day. This makes them natural warriors. If we wait too long, they will become too strong to stop." The other Zephyrian leaders agreed. They had seen what humans could do when they fought. Human soldiers were brave and clever. They never gave up, even when things looked hopeless. The aliens decided they had to act fast. 3 big Zephyrian warships moved through space toward the moon. Each ship was 2 miles long and covered with heavy armor. They had weapons that could destroy whole planets. The ships used special technology that made them invisible to human sensors. Commander Alex Stone was on duty aboard the USS Defiance. This was one of the human ships that patrolled the space around Earth. Alex had been a space pilot for 15 years. He was good at spotting trouble. Something felt wrong today. Alex couldn't explain it, but his instincts told him to be careful. He ordered his crew to run extra sensor sweeps. The computers showed nothing unusual, but Alex stayed alert. Back on the research station, Lisa Carter was finishing her daily report. The mining operations were going well. The workers had dug up more helium-3 than ever before. Earth's energy needs were growing, and the moon was keeping up with demand. Suddenly, Lisa's computer started beeping. The sensors had detected something strange. 3 massive objects had appeared near the moon out of nowhere. They were huge, much bigger than any human ship. "What the hell is that?" Lisa said out loud. Captain Morrison's alarm system went crazy. Red lights flashed everywhere in the Guardian 7 command center. The computers showed 3 unknown ships near the moon. They were so big that they blocked out the stars behind them. "Red alert," Morrison shouted. "All hands to battle stations." The defense satellites around the moon turned their weapons toward the strange ships. Morrison tried to contact the unknown vessels. "Unknown ships, this is Guardian 7. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." There was no answer. Morrison tried again. "Unknown ships, you are in restricted space. Respond immediately or we will consider you hostile." Still no answer. "Commander." Stone saw the 3 ships on his sensors too. The USS Defiance was too far away to help right now. It would take hours to reach the moon. "Get me a communication link with Guardian 7, Stone ordered. "Sir, we're receiving their emergency signal." His communications officer reported. "They're calling for all ships to assist." On the moon, Ben Hughes felt the ground shake under his feet. The mining equipment stopped working. Emergency alarms were going off everywhere. "What's happening?" Amy asked her father. "I don't know," Ben said, "but we need to get to the emergency shelters right now." The 50,000 people on the moon started moving toward the underground bunkers. These shelters were built to protect them from meteor strikes and equipment failures. The people moved quickly but stayed calm. They had practiced this many times. The 3 Zephyrian ships moved closer to the moon. They were so big that they cast shadows on the lunar surface. The aliens inside the ships were preparing their most powerful weapon. The Void Reaper was a terrible device. It created a gravity field so strong that it could tear apart planets. The Zephyrians had used it only once before to destroy a world that refused to surrender to them. Ambassador Vex, though, was on the lead ship. He felt sad about what they were going to do, but he believed it was necessary. Humans were too dangerous to be allowed to live. "Charge the Void Reaper," Vexthil ordered. The weapon began to glow with a purple light. Energy from all 3 ships flowed into the device. The air around the ships started to bend and twist. Captain Morrison watched in horror as the alien ships prepared to fire. He had never seen anything like it. The space around the ships was changing. Stars were bending out of shape. "All defense satellites, fire everything you have," Morrison commanded. The human weapons hit the alien ships, but they bounced off harmlessly. The Zephyrian shields were too strong. The Void Reaper fired. A wave of twisted gravity hit the moon. The solid rock began to crack and break apart. The mining equipment was crushed instantly. The underground city started to collapse. Lisa Carter watched from her station as the moon began to die. Huge chunks of rock flew off into space. The mining sites disappeared in clouds of dust and debris. "My God," she whispered. "They're destroying the moon." The gravity weapon tore deeper into the moon's core. The satellite that had watched over Earth for billions of years was being ripped apart in minutes. On the surface, Ben Hughes grabbed his daughter's hand. The shelter they were in was shaking and breaking apart. Other people were screaming and crying around them. "Hold on, Amy," Ben said. "We'll get through this." But even as he said it, Ben knew they were all going to die. The moon was coming apart, and there was nowhere to run. The pieces of the destroyed moon began falling toward Earth. The planet's gravity pulled the debris down like a deadly rain. The first chunks hit the atmosphere and burned up like shooting stars. But bigger pieces kept coming. Within hours, meteor showers were hitting cities all over Earth. The chunks of moon rock smashed into buildings and started fires. Millions of People ran for shelter, but there was nowhere safe to hide. The worst was yet to come. Without the moon's gravity to hold them in place, Earth's oceans began to move. Huge waves started building up along every coastline. The tsunamis would be hundreds of feet high. Lisa Carter's research station was hit by a piece of lunar debris. The impact knocked out the power and cracked the hull. Air began leaking out into space. As Lisa put on her emergency suit, she looked out at what was left of the moon. It was now just a field of floating rocks and dust. In 12 hours, humanity had lost its oldest companion and its most important source of energy. 200 million people were dead or dying. The aliens had not bothered to explain why they had attacked. They had just destroyed the moon and left, but they had made one terrible mistake. They had underestimated what humans would do when pushed to the edge of extinction. The Zephyrians thought they were destroying a weak species. Instead, they had just awakened the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Earth was a death world, and its children were about to show the universe exactly what that meant. Admiral Kate Sullivan was on Mars when the moon died. She was the leader of the Terran Defense Force, the military group that protected all human colonies in space. Kate had been a soldier for 30 years and had fought in many battles. But she had never seen anything like this. The communication from Earth came in broken pieces. The signal was weak and full of static. Kate could hear the panic in the voice of the officer who was trying to talk to her. "Admiral, the moon is gone. The aliens destroyed it. Pieces are falling on Earth. Millions are dead." Kate stared at the message screen. She read it 3 times before she could believe it. The moon was gone. The thing that had been in Earth's sky since the beginning of time was now just floating rocks. "Get me a full report," Kate ordered her staff. "I want to know everything that happened." The reports came in slowly. The communications networks on Earth were breaking down. The falling moon pieces had hit many of the satellite dishes and radio towers. But the story was clear. 3 alien ships had appeared and destroyed the moon without warning. On the moon's surface, Ben Hughes was trapped in an emergency shelter with his daughter Amy and 200 other people. The shelter was deep underground, built into solid rock. It was designed to protect them from accidents and meteor strikes. But it was not built to survive the destruction of the entire moon. The walls around them were cracking. Every few minutes, another piece of the ceiling would fall down. The air recycling system was damaged and working poorly. They had food and water for maybe a week. "Dad, what's happening outside?" Amy asked. Ben looked at the small video screen that showed the surface. There was nothing to see but flying rocks and dust. The mining equipment was gone. The landing pads were destroyed. The other buildings had been crushed flat. "The moon is breaking apart," Ben said quietly. "We're riding a piece of it into space." Amy was scared, but she was also angry. Why did they do this? "We never hurt them. We were just mining gas to power our cities." Ben didn't have an answer. The Zephyrians had been trading partners for 30 years. They had seemed friendly. There had been no warning, no demands, no explanation. They had just attacked and destroyed everything. On Earth, President Helen Davis was in an emergency meeting with her military leaders. The capital city was under attack from falling moon rocks. The government had moved to an underground bunker, built during the old nuclear wars. "How many are dead?" the president asked. General Rick Taylor looked at his reports. "We estimate 200 million dead or missing. The numbers are still growing. The moon debris is hitting every continent." The president felt sick. 200 million people. That was more than died in all the wars of the 20th century combined. "What about the tsunamis?" she asked. "They're just starting," General Taylor said. "The computer models show waves up to 300 feet high hitting the coasts. Every coastal city is being evacuated, but we don't have enough time. Through the video screens, they could see the disaster happening in real time. New York City was underwater. London was gone. Tokyo had disappeared under a wall of water. The Pacific Ocean was washing over California like it was a bathtub. The Zephyrian ships had moved away from the moon after destroying it. They were now broadcasting a message to Earth on all communication channels. Ambassador Vexthal appeared on every screen and radio. "People of Earth," the alien said in his strange voice, "your species has been judged too dangerous to exist. You are what we call Deathworlders. You come from a world that creates natural warriors. You adapt too quickly. You spread too fast. You are a threat to the peaceful species of the galaxy." The message continued. "We offer you one choice. Surrender now, and we will relocate your survivors to prison worlds where you can live quietly. Refuse, and we will destroy your planet just as we destroyed your moon." President Davis listened to the message with growing rage. The aliens were talking about humans like they were animals that needed to be put in cages. "Get me a communication link with their ships," she ordered. "Ma'am, they're not responding to our signals." The communications officer reported. "Then send this message on all frequencies," President Davis said. "Tell them that Earth does not surrender. Tell them that if they want to destroy us, they'll have to come down here and do it themselves." The president then activated the Omega Protocol. This was a secret plan that had been prepared for the worst possible emergency. Every human military ship in the solar system received the same message. Return to Earth immediately. Prepare for war. Admiral Sullivan received the Omega Protocol message on Mars. She looked at her staff officers. They all knew what it meant. Humanity was facing extinction. "How many ships do we have?" she asked. 312 combat vessels, her aide reported. Everything from battleships to patrol boats. We also have about 500 cargo ships and civilian vessels that could be armed. Kate did the math in her head. The Zephyrians had thousands of ships. The human fleet was outnumbered at least 10 to 1. But the Omega Protocol was clear. When humanity faced extinction, every ship and every person would fight. "Send the recall order," Kate commanded. All ships returned to Earth orbit immediately. Captain Morrison was still alive on Guardian 7, but his space station was badly damaged. The alien attack had knocked out most of his weapons and sensors. He was trying to help rescue the people trapped on the moon. "Sir, we're getting signals from the lunar shelters," his communications officer reported. "There are survivors down there." Morrison felt a spark of hope. "How many?" "We're not sure. Maybe 10,000 people in the deeper shelters. But they're running out of air and power." Morrison looked at the wreckage around the moon. The pieces of the satellite were spreading out into space. Some chunks were as big as mountains. Others were just dust and small rocks. "Get me every rescue ship we have," Morrison ordered. "We're going to save as many people as we can." Dr. Lisa Carter was also working on rescue operations. Her research station was damaged, but still working. She was using her sensors to locate the surviving shelters on the moon pieces. Lisa had been studying the alien weapon that destroyed the moon. She had recorded everything that happened. The energy readings were unlike anything she had ever seen. "The weapon uses some kind of artificial gravity," she told herself as she looked at the data. "It creates a field that tears apart matter at the molecular level." Lisa noticed something important in the data. After the weapon fired, the alien ships had moved away quickly. The energy readings showed that their power systems were almost empty. "It takes a lot of energy to fire that weapon," Lisa realized. "They can't use it again right away." She sent her findings to Admiral Sullivan on Mars. If the weapon needed time to recharge that gave humanity a chance to fight back, Commander Stone and the USS Defiance were racing back to Earth His ship was one of the fastest in the human fleet. He would arrive in 18 hours. Stone was reading the reports about the attack. The more he learned, the angrier he became. The Zephyrians had called humans Deathworlders. They said humans were too dangerous to live. They have no idea what dangerous really means, Stone said to his crew. They think they've seen us at our worst. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten human children. The crew of the Defiance agreed. They had all lost friends and family in the attack. Some had relatives on the moon who were probably dead. The aliens had started a war they couldn't imagine. Back on Earth, the disaster was getting worse. The tsunamis had hit every coastline. Entire countries were underwater. The weather was going crazy without the moon's gravity to keep it stable. But something else was happening too. The surviving humans were not panicking. They were getting angry. The news reports showed people digging through the rubble to help. Their neighbors. Rescue workers were risking their lives to save strangers. Soldiers were working around the clock to maintain order. General Taylor was surprised by what he was seeing. I expected chaos and riots, he told President Davis. Instead, people are organizing themselves. They're preparing for war. The president nodded. The aliens made a mistake. They thought destroying the moon would break our spirit. Instead, they've united us. Reports were coming in from all over the world. Factories were switching to making weapons and ammunition. Scientists were working on new technologies to fight the aliens. Even children were helping by gathering supplies and materials. Amy Morrison was one of those children. She was trapped in the lunar shelter with her father, but she was not giving up. She was using her knowledge of alien biology to help the other survivors. The Zephyrians breathe a different kind of air than we do, she told her father. If we ever get close to their ships, we might be able to use that against them. Ben looked at his daughter with pride. Even facing death, she was thinking about how to fight back. That was the human spirit the aliens didn't understand. The rescue ships from Guardian 7 had found their shelter. Captain Morrison's voice came through the radio. This is Guardian 7. We're coming to get you. Hold on just a little longer. Ben and Amy smiled at each other. They were going to survive. And when they got off this chunk of moon rock, they were going to help make the aliens pay for what they had done. The human fleet was gathering in Earth orbit. Ships were arriving from Mars, from the asteroid belt, from the outer planets. Admiral Sulliva. The human fleet moved through hyperspace toward the Zephyrian home system. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the TDF Retribution. 312 ships followed behind her. Each one carried weapons and crew members who had lost family and friends when the moon was destroyed. Sullivan looked at her tactical display. The Zephyrian home system was called Kepler Prime. It had 5 planets and thousands of defense satellites. The aliens had built their civilization around their home star for over 10,000 years. Admiral, we're getting reports from our scouts, Lieutenant Commander Danny Walsh said. Walsh was one of the best fighter pilots in the fleet. He had volunteered to lead the advanced reconnaissance missions. What did you find? Sullivan asked. The Zephyrian fleet is bigger than we thought, Walsh reported. Our long-range sensors show at least 2,000 ships guarding their home system. They have battle stations around every planet. Sullivan felt a cold weight in her stomach. 2,000 ships against 300. The odds were even worse than she had feared. What about their ship types? She asked. Most of them are bigger than our ships, Walsh said. They have heavy armor and energy shields. Our weapons might not be able to penetrate their defenses. Captain Morrison joined the conversation. His defense station had been repaired enough to fight, and he had volunteered to join the attack fleet. Admiral, we need to think about this differently, Morrison said. We can't fight them the way they expect us to fight. We need to use tactics they've never seen before. Sullivan nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. The human fleet could not win a straight battle against the Zephyrians. They needed to be clever and unpredictable. What do you suggest? She asked. Morrison pointed to the tactical display. Look at their formation. They're arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Every ship has a designated position. They fight like they're conducting a symphony orchestra. And that's bad for them, how? Sullivan asked. Because we don't fight like that, Morrison said with a smile. We fight like a pack of wolves. We hit them from unexpected angles. We use their size and organization against them. Dr. Lisa Carter was working in the fleet's mobile laboratory. She had been studying the data from the moon's destruction for days. The energy readings from the alien weapon were unlike anything in human science. The Zephyrians use something called harmonic resonance, she explained to her research team. Their weapons and shields all operate on specific frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies, we can neutralize their advantages. Her assistant, engineer Paul Grant, looked at the data. It's like tuning a radio, he said. If we can find the right frequency, we can jam their signals. Lisa nodded. Exactly. And I think I know how to do it. She had been working on a device called a frequency scrambler. It would send out random electromagnetic pulses that would confuse the Zephyrian technology. The device was small enough to fit on a human fighter ship. How long do you need to build these scramblers? Admiral Sullivan asked when Lisa presented her idea. Give me 12 hours, and I can have 100 units ready, Lisa replied. You have 6 hours, Sullivan said. We'll be in the Kepler system soon. The Zephyrian High Council was meeting on their homeworld. Ambassador Vexthal was reporting on the human response to their ultimatum. They have rejected our offer to surrender, he told the other leaders. Their fleet is approaching our home system. Commander Veltar, the military leader of the collective, seemed amused. How many ships do they have? Approximately 300 vessels, Vexthal replied. The other council members laughed. 300 ships against their massive fleet seemed like a joke. This will be over quickly, Veltar said. We will destroy their fleet and then finish sterilizing their planet. But Vexthal was not laughing. He had studied human military history. These were the people who had fought the bloodiest wars in galactic history. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets, and they had used them against each other. We should not underestimate them, Vexthal warned. Humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They do not surrender easily. They are primitives with crude weapons, Veltar replied. Our ships have energy shields and armor plating. Their projectile weapons cannot harm us. Vexthal hoped the military commander was right. But he had a bad feeling about this battle. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Admiral Sullivan looked at her sensors and saw the massive Zephyrian fleet waiting for them. My God, she whispered, there are so many of them. The alien ships were arranged in perfect formations around the system's planets. Each ship was twice the size of a human vessel. Their hulls gleamed with advanced armor plating. Admiral Weir, receiving a communication from the Zephyrian flagship, her communications officer reported. Put it on screen, Sullivan ordered. Commander Veltar appeared on the display. His blue skin and 4 arms made him look like something from a nightmare. Human fleet, you are greatly outnumbered, the alien said. Surrender now, and we will grant you a quick death. Continue your attack, and we will make you suffer. Admiral. Sullivan looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. Commander, my name is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force. You destroyed our moon. You killed our people. You called us Deathworlders. Now you're going to find out what that really means. She signaled her communications officer to cut the transmission. Then she turned to her fleet commanders. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. The aliens think we're going to fight them the way they fight each other. They're wrong. We're going to show them how Deathworlders really fight. Attack Pattern Alpha. Hit them fast and hard. The human fleet split into small groups. Instead of staying together in formation, they scattered across the system like a swarm of angry bees. Each group had a different target and a different mission. Lieutenant Commander Walsh led a squadron of 50 fighter ships toward the Zephyrian right flank. The small human fighters were fast and hard to hit. They flew in chaotic patterns that confused the alien targeting systems. Remember, Walsh told his pilots, we're not trying to destroy their big ships. We're trying to make them panic. Hit their sensors and communication arrays. Make them blind and deaf. The fighters swooped in on the alien formation. The Zephyrians opened fire with their energy weapons. Bright beams of light filled the space between the ships. Several human fighters were hit and destroyed, but the others kept coming. Walsh's fighter dove under a Zephyrian cruiser and fired his missiles at the ship's sensor array. The explosion knocked out the alien ship's ability to see and communicate with the rest of the fleet. Target confirmed, Walsh reported. They're having trouble coordinating their defense. Captain Morrison led another group of human ships in a different direction. His target was a Zephyrian supply depot orbiting the system's fourth planet. The depot was lightly defended because it was far from the main battle. Remember, we're not just fighting their military, Morrison told his crew. We're fighting their entire civilization. If we can cut off their supplies, their big ships become useless. Morrison's ships attacked the supply depot with everything they had. The depot's defenses were designed to stop pirates and raiders, not a coordinated military assault. Within minutes, the facility was destroyed. Supply depot neutralized, Morrison reported. The aliens are going to have trouble refueling their ships. Dr. Lisa Carter's frequency scramblers were working better than she had hoped. The human ships equipped with the devices were able to penetrate the Zephyrian energy shields. Their weapons were actually damaging the alien ships. It's working, Lisa reported to Admiral Sullivan. The scramblers are disrupting their shield. Harmonics. Our weapons are getting through. Sullivan smiled for the first time since the moon was destroyed. Send the scrambler frequency to all ships. Let's see how they like fighting without their shields. The Zephyrian fleet was starting to panic. They had expected the humans to attack in organized formations that could be easily defeated. Instead, the human ships were everywhere at once. They attacked from above, below, and from all sides at the same time. Commander Valtar was trying to coordinate his fleet's response, but the humans were moving too fast. Every time he sent ships to attack one human group, another group would attack somewhere else. How can they fight like this? He asked his tactical officer. They have no organization, no discipline. Sir, their attack pattern seems completely random, the tactical officer replied. But it's actually very effective. They're hitting all our weak points at once. Veltar realized he was facing something he had never encountered before. The humans were not fighting like a military force. They were fighting like predators hunting in a pack. Ben, Hughes and his daughter Amy had been rescued from the lunar debris and were now aboard one of the human ships. Ben had volunteered for a dangerous mission. He was leading a team of former miners who were going to board and capture alien ships. Remember, Ben told his team, we spent years working in the most dangerous environments in the solar system. These aliens have never faced anything like us. The team was using small transport ships to get close to the Zephyrian vessels. Once they were aboard, they would plant nuclear charges in the ship's power cores. Dad, are you sure this will work? Amy asked. Ben checked his equipment one more time. The news of the human victory at Kepler Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Zephyrian Collective had ruled over dozens of star systems for thousands of years. No one had ever defeated them in battle. now a small fleet of Deathworld. Ships had destroyed their main defense force. On the Zephyrian homeworld, panic was setting in. The High Council had lost contact with Commander Veltar and his entire fleet. Long-range sensors showed nothing but debris where their ships used to be. Ambassador Vexthal stood before the emergency council meeting. His forearms shook as he delivered the news. The human fleet has destroyed our home defense force, he announced. 2,000 ships are gone. Commander Veltar is dead. The council members stared at him in shock. Supreme Leader Kexton was the first to speak. How is this possible? The humans had only 300 ships. They fought differently than we expected, Vexthal replied. They used tactics we have never seen before. They attacked from all directions at once. They sacrificed their own ships to destroy ours. Supreme Leader Kexton felt fear creeping into his heart. Where is the human fleet now? They are heading toward our outer colonies, Vexthal said. Our long-range sensors show them approaching the Rigel system. Admiral Sullivan's fleet was indeed moving toward the Zephyrian colonies. The human ships had been repaired as much as possible after the battle. They had also been reinforced by ships arriving from Earth. Captain Morrison now commanded a captured Zephyrian battleship. His engineering crew had figured out how to operate the alien technology. The ship was now painted with human markings and armed with human weapons. It's ironic, Morrison told his crew. We're using their own ship to hunt them down. The USS Vengeance was Sullivan's new flagship. Her old ship had been too damaged to continue fighting. The Vengeance was a heavy cruiser equipped with Dr. Carter's frequency scramblers and the latest human weapons. Admiral, we're approaching the Rigel system, the navigation officer reported. Sullivan looked at her tactical display. The Rigel system had 12 planets and was home to 50 million Zephyrians. It was also the location of their main shipyard facility. What are our orders, ma'am? Captain Morrison asked over the communication link. Sullivan's face was hard as stone. We destroy their ability to build new ships. No mercy. No prisoners. They wanted to exterminate our species. Now they get to see what extinction looks like. The human fleet attacked the Rigel system with brutal efficiency. They had learned from their victory at Kepler Prime. The aliens could not match human tactics or human determination. Lieutenant Commander Walsh led his fighter squadrons against the Zephyrian orbital shipyards. The facilities were massive structures that could build dozens of ships at once. They were also completely defenseless against fast-moving fighters. Target the construction bays, Walsh ordered his pilots. We're going to make sure they never build another ship. The fighters swept through the shipyards like a swarm of metal locusts. Their missiles and plasma cannons destroyed machinery that had taken decades to build. Within hours, the Zephyrians had lost their main source of new warships. Ben Hughes and his demolition team were attacking the system's mining stations. The Zephyrians needed rare metals to build their ships and weapons. Without these materials, their remaining fleet would be useless. Remember, Ben told his team as they prepared. To board the mining platform, we're not just stopping their military. We're crippling their entire civilization. The miners moved through the alien facility with deadly precision. They knew exactly which systems to destroy to cause maximum damage. Within minutes, the mining operation was shut down permanently. Amy Morrison was analyzing captured Zephyrian prisoners. She had discovered something important about their biology. Dad, the aliens have a major weakness, she told Ben over the radio. They're hive-minded. They think as a group, not as individuals. If we can disrupt their communication networks, they lose the ability to coordinate. Ben smiled grimly. Then let's cut off their talking. The human forces began targeting Zephyrian communication relays throughout the system. The aliens used quantum entanglement networks to talk to each other across vast distances. The humans planted explosives in the relay stations and destroyed them all at once. Suddenly, the Zephyrian forces in the Rigel system could not talk to each other. Ship captains could not receive orders. Ground commanders lost contact with their troops. The organized alien defense collapsed into chaos. "It's working," Admiral Sullivan observed. "They're completely confused without their command structure." Dr. Lisa Carter had made another breakthrough in her study of alien technology. She had figured out how to reverse engineer the Zephyrian gravity weapons. "I can't recreate their planet killer," she told Admiral Sullivan, "but I can make smaller versions that will work against their ships." Carter's new weapons used artificial gravity to crush enemy vessels from the inside. The Zephyrian armor and shields were useless against this type of attack. The battle for the Rigel system was over in 6 hours. The human fleet had destroyed the shipyards, the mining operations, and the defense force. 50 million Zephyrian civilians were now at the mercy of the Deathworlders. But Admiral Sullivan surprised everyone with her next order. "Attention Zephyrian civilians," she broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force. We are not here to harm innocent people. We are here to stop your military from attacking other species." The broadcast continued. "Your leaders destroyed our moon and killed 200 million humans. They declared war on our entire species. We are responding to that declaration, but we do not make war on civilians." Sullivan's mercy was not understood by the Zephyrians. In their experience, victorious armies always slaughtered the defeated population. The concept of showing restraint in victory was alien to them. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Leader Kexton was receiving reports of the disaster at Rigel. "They destroyed our shipyards, but spared the civilians," Bexthal reported. "I do not understand their strategy." Kexton was equally confused. "Perhaps they planned to use the civilians as slaves." "No, sir," Bexthal said. "Our intelligence reports say that humans do not practice slavery. They have freed other species from slavery when they encountered it." The Supreme Leader felt a chill. What kind of species shows mercy to an enemy that tried to exterminate them? The answer was becoming clear across the galaxy. Humans were not just deadly fighters. They were also capable of mercy and justice. This combination made them more dangerous than any species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. The human fleet was moving from system to system, destroying Zephyrian military assets while sparing civilian populations. Their strategy was working. The alien empire was collapsing as their ability to defend themselves disappeared. Captain Morrison was leading an attack on the Vega system when they encountered something unexpected. A group of alien ships was surrendering without a fight. "This is Captain Zarfik of the Altarian Defense Force," came the message. "We wish to surrender to the human fleet." Morrison was surprised. The Altarians were one of the species that belonged to the Zephyrian collective. He had expected them to fight alongside their allies. "Why are you surrendering?" Morrison asked. "Because we were forced to join the collective," Zarthik replied. "The Zephyrians conquered our world and made us their servants. We have been waiting for someone strong enough to free us." Morrison realized that the Zephyrian collective was not a willing alliance. It was an empire built on conquest and fear. Many of the member species were slaves who had been forced to fight for their masters. "Admiral Sullivan, you need to hear this," Morrison reported. When Sullivan learned about the Altarian surrender, she saw a new opportunity. The Zephyrian empire could be destroyed from within if the enslaved species turned against their masters. "Send a message to all member species of the collective," Sullivan ordered. "Tell them that humanity offers them freedom and protection if they switch sides." The response was immediate. Across the galaxy, alien species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians began to rebel. The empire that had seemed so powerful was actually built on a foundation of oppressed peoples who hated their rulers. Then, Hughes was leading a mission to the Alpha Centauri system when they were met by a fleet of rebel ships. The aliens looked different from the Zephyrians. They were smaller and had fur instead of scales. "We are the Procyon Liberation Fleet," their leader announced. "We have been fighting the Zephyrians for 50 years. We wish to join your war against them." Ben smiled at his daughter Amy. "Looks like we're not fighting alone anymore." The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were rising up against their oppressors. The Zephyrian military was being attacked from all sides. Dr. Carter was analyzing the political situation from her laboratory ship. "The collective is falling apart," she reported to Admiral Sullivan. "Half their member species have declared independence. The other half are in open rebellion." Sullivan nodded. The Zephyrians made the same mistake that tyrants always make. They thought fear was enough to control people forever. But fear only works until someone stronger comes along. The human fleet had grown from 300 ships to over 2,000. Rebel forces from dozens of species had joined the fight against the Zep. The final battle for the Zephyrian homeworld began at dawn on their planet's surface. Admiral Sullivan's massive fleet of 3,000 ships faced off against the last 800 vessels of the once mighty collective. The space around Kepler. Crime glowed with the light of energy weapons and explosions. But this battle was different from all the others. The humans were no longer the desperate underdogs fighting for survival. They were now the leaders of a galactic coalition that had come to end the Zephyrian Empire forever. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan to all coalition forces," she broadcast. "Today we finish what the Zephyrians started when they destroyed our moon. Today we show the galaxy that tyrants and bullies will not be tolerated. Attack!" The coalition fleet moved forward like a tide of metal and fire. Human ships fought alongside Altarian cruisers, Procyon fighters, and vessels from a dozen other species that had been freed from Zephyrian rule. Lieutenant Commander Danny Walsh led the first wave of fighters against the Zephyrian defense satellites. His squadron had grown from 50 human pilots to over 500 fighters from many different worlds. "Remember," Walsh told his mixed squadron, "we're not just fighting for revenge anymore. We're fighting for the freedom of every species in the galaxy." The fighters swept through the satellite grid like a storm. The Zephyrian defenses had been designed to stop organized military attacks, not the chaotic swarm tactics that the coalition forces used. Captain Morrison commanded a battle group of captured Zephyrian ships that had been turned against their former owners. His crews were made up of humans and rebel aliens working together. "It's poetic justice," Morrison told his mixed crew. "We're using their own weapons to destroy them." The USS Vengeance led the main assault against the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge, watching the battle unfold. Her ship had been equipped with every advanced weapon that Dr. Carter had developed. "Target their command ship," Sullivan ordered. "Cut off the head and the body will die." The Vengeance's new gravity weapons tore through the Zephyrian flagship's armor like paper. The alien ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion that lit up the entire star system. On the surface of the Zephyrian homeworld, billions of civilians watched the battle in their sky. Many of them had never seen their mighty fleet defeated. They could not believe that the species they had thought of as primitive animals were winning. Supreme Leader Kexton watched from his palace as his empire died around him. His military advisors were giving him reports of disaster after disaster. "Sir, the defense satellites are destroyed," one officer reported. "The orbital shipyards are under attack. Our fleet is being overwhelmed." Kexton refused to accept defeat. "Activate the planetary shields. Prepare the surface-to-space cannons. We will make them pay for every meter of ground." But Ambassador Vexthal had other ideas. He had been secretly communicating with moderate Zephyrian leaders who wanted to end the war. "Sir, we must surrender," Vexthul told the Supreme Leader. "Our people are dying for your pride. The humans have shown mercy to other worlds. They might spare us if we give up now." Kexton turned on his ambassador with rage. "Never. I would rather see our world burn than surrender to Deathworld savages." Vexthul made a difficult decision. He contacted Admiral Sullivan directly. "Admiral, this is Ambassador Vexthul. I speak for the moderate faction of the Zephyrian government. We wish to surrender and end this war." Sullivan was surprised to hear from the alien ambassador. "What about your Supreme Leader?" "He refuses to surrender," Vexthul replied. "But he no longer speaks for all Zephyrians. Many of us want peace." "Admiral." Sullivan faced a choice that would define the future of the galaxy. She could destroy the Zephyrian homeworld and complete her revenge for the moon's destruction. Or she could show mercy and create a new kind of galactic order. "Stand down your planetary defenses," Sullivan told Vexthul. "I'm sending troops to your surface, but I want all civilians to stay in their homes. Anyone who surrenders peacefully will be treated fairly." Ben Hughes led the first landing force to the Zephyrian surface. His team of miners-turned-soldiers had become experts at capturing alien facilities. They landed near the capital city and began securing key installations. "Remember," Ben told his troops, "we're here to end the war, not to massacre civilians. The Zephyrians tried to exterminate us, but we're better than they are." Amy Morrison was with the landing force as a xenobiologist and translator. She was helping to communicate with Zephyrian civilians who wanted to surrender. "Most of them are terrified," she reported to her father. "They've been told that humans eat their prisoners and torture civilians. They can't believe we're treating them kindly." The truth was that most Zephyrian civilians had never wanted the war. They had been told that humans were dangerous animals that needed to be destroyed. Now they were learning that the humans were more civilized than their own leaders. Dr. Lisa Carter was working with Zephyrian scientists who had been forced to develop weapons for the military. Many of them were happy to share their knowledge with the humans in exchange for protection. "Their technology is more advanced than ours in some ways," Carter reported to Admiral Sullivan. "But they never developed the innovative thinking that comes from growing up on a dangerous world. They can copy existing designs, but they can't create new solutions to unexpected problems." Supreme Leader Kexton had barricaded himself in his palace with his most loyal followers. He was preparing to make a final stand rather than surrender. To the coalition forces, "We will fight to the last soldier," he declared. "The Zephyrian collective will never bow to inferior species." But his army was melting away. Zephyrian soldiers were surrendering to the coalition forces in massive numbers. They had seen what happened to those who fought the Deathworlders. They wanted to live, not die for their leader's pride. Ben Hughes and his team reached the palace gates. Instead of storming the building, he used loudspeakers to address the defenders. "Attention, Zephyrian forces," he announced. "Your war is over. Your fleet is destroyed. Your empire has fallen. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and you will share your leader's fate." One by one, the palace guards threw down their weapons and walked out with their hands up. They had heard what happened to Zephyrians who fought fairly. The humans kept their word about treating prisoners well. Supreme Leader Kexton found himself alone in his throne room. His guards had abandoned him. His advisors had fled. His empire was gone. Admiral Sullivan entered the throne room with a small escort. She looked at the alien leader who had ordered the destruction of humanity's moon. "Supreme Leader Kexton," she said formally, "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force. You are under arrest for crimes against humanity and genocide. Kexton looked at the human woman with hatred and fear. You will never break the Zephyrian spirit. There will always be those who remember our glory. Sullivan nodded. Maybe, but they'll also remember what happens when you attack Deathworlders. Your empire is finished. Your military is destroyed. Your allies have abandoned you. The galaxy belongs to free peoples now. The war was over. The Zephyrian collective had been completely defeated. But Admiral Sullivan's greatest challenge was still ahead of her. She had to decide what to do with the victory. 5 years later, the galaxy had been transformed. The Terran Federation had become the dominant military power, but they ruled very differently than the Zephyrians had. President Helen Davis, now leader of the Galactic Council, addressed representatives from over 100 different species. The council met on a space station built from the wreckage of Zephyrian warships. The old empire ruled through fear and conquest, Davis said. The new federation is built on cooperation and mutual defense. Every species has the right to govern itself, but every species also has the duty to protect the weak from the strong. Earth had been rebuilt after the moon's destruction. The artificial satellites that replaced the moon were actually more efficient at controlling the tides and weather. Humanity had turned their greatest loss into an advantage. Dr. Lisa Carter had become the head of the new Galactic Science Institute. Scientists from hundreds of worlds worked together to develop technologies that helped everyone. The spirit of competition and innovation that came from Earth's dangerous environment was spreading throughout the galaxy. We're not trying to make every world like Earth, Carter explained to her alien colleagues. We're trying to help every species reach their full potential. Ben Hughes and his daughter Amy had established mining colonies on 200 worlds. Many of these planets had been considered too dangerous for the Zephyrians to develop, but humans thrived in dangerous environments. The galaxy is full of resources that nobody was using, Ben told a gathering of mining engineers. The Zephyrians were afraid of worlds with active volcanoes or unstable weather. To us, those are just normal working conditions. Amy had become a leading expert in xenobiology. She was helping dozens of species understand their own biology better. Her work was extending lifespans and curing diseases throughout the galaxy. Captain Morrison commanded the new Galactic Defense Force. This was a coalition military that protected free worlds from any remaining threats. Most of the ships were crewed by mixed species working together. The old Zephyrian military was built